Welcome back. Now, music director and orchestra conductor Preez Strauss is bringing music from our favorite Disney animated movies back to stage. In a show titled Dreamland, this is Strauss's world-class piano interpretations of the much-loved classics. The production, which kicked off on Thursday, runs until the 10th of September at the Drama Factory in Cape Town. Now, the music director joins us virtually to tell us more about Dreamland. Preez, a very good morning to you. Well, welcome to Morning Live. Can you briefly tell us about what Dreamland is about and what the inspiration behind it is?
You know, because I devoted such a large part of my adult life to traveling the world with the Lion King musical, and now that I've decided to, come back home, because you start missing your family. Like, seeing the world is fun, but living out of a suitcase, I mean, it gets a bit old after a while. And I decided to come back to South Africa to incidentally settle in a home of my own for the first time ever in my adult life, because I've been traveling so much.
Yeah.
The idea was that I wanted to bring my own version of the Disney stuff that I love the most, that I've been so busy with professionally all over the world for so many years. I wanted to bring my personal version of this music and these stories to South Africans. And I also wanted to do it as a stripped down version, because people know all these Disney songs that I'm performing in my show, but they only even know them with pictures and with lyrics. So I'm taking those two elements away, stripping it down just to me on the piano with beautiful piano renditions of this music. And I draw the audience attention to, hey, now that the pictures and the lyrics are gone, you thought you know the song so well, but listen in the music without pictures or lyrics, how the music itself is also telling the story. And it's amazing that people's minds are blown. They come to me after the show and they say, wow, I've never realized that the music itself, without all those other elements, is also telling the story.
Mm-hmm. Speak to us about the entire production process and curating the music for this. And because you've got such a large pool to work with, how did you then decide which is the best music to go with what your vision and what you had in mind?
Look, it's so tough because I started with at least 50 of my favorite Disney songs, but that would have kept an audience busy from Friday until Sunday. So I had to strip it down to only 13 that you could fit into one show. And honestly, in the theater business, we talk about you have to sometimes let your children go because they feel like your babies, but you simply have to let some of them go.
Yeah.
So I'm left with 13 of the most pivotal songs in my own life that mean things for some pivotal moments in my life. And I know they mean so many other things also to other people. So what I did was I started with my 13 utmost favorite songs, and then I strung them together in a storyline. And the storyline is just brilliant because did you know that all Disney stories are based on the same story structure, and It's called The Hero's Journey. The Hero's Journey. You can go Google it. It's the worst kept, best kept secret in all of the Disney universe. And the Hero's Journey says that all Disney heroes have to go through the same things. First, they have to leave their home in order to learn new things about themselves and the world, so they can eventually come back to the people they love the most. They can now mean so much more to their loved ones than they could ever have meant to them if they didn't leave them behind in the first place. So in Dreamland, I am telling 7 Disney stories concurrently, as if they all happen at the same time. So for instance, as Moana's raft passes by in the glistening sun on the Pacific Ocean, at that same moment, hundreds of meters below the surface, in a cold, dark corner, sits a little mermaid and stares up at Moana's raft. So it's like all these things happen to all the Disney heroes at the same time.
Yeah. I mean, how do the children react to this? Because I imagine, the little ones would love this as well, but the adults also appreciate it too.
It's amazing, and that's why I love Disney so much. That's why I believe Disney is what it is after 100 years. It's 100 years old this year, and it's still going strong. Because the stories, on the surface, they look like children's cartoons. But the older you get, the more brain capacity you have for seeing deeper, the more you realize those stories are littered with metaphors and truths about life. The young kids in the show, they just love it. They come to me afterwards and they go, Uncle Dupree, this was my favorite. And then another one goes, no, that was my favorite. It's so cute. But the older people realize, and I draw the audience attention to it at some point in the show, that the hero's journey is not just a bunch of cartoon characters leaving their home. It's probably the story of every single one of us who's ever had to leave a loved one behind, or a relationship, or an animal child that you would never see again. Leave all of that felt like home behind to tread into an unknown future alone. Because you can only ever make the hero's journey alone. The kids don't quite get that, but the grown-ups go, oh my word, this is a realization that these Disney stories mean so much more than what they look like on the surface.
Speak to us about how you incorporate your personal experiences into the production.
It's interesting that when I started writing the script, I realized, but I've been on my own hero's journey of sorts.
Yeah.
I too had to leave the only home I've ever known. I grew up in Bloemfontein of all places, and I realized from an early age, wow, I wanted to go further as a piano player, as a music director, as an orchestra conductor. So I had to leave Bloem, and that experience of going all the way to the four corners of the world, traveling with the Lion King, in order to come back a stronger, more content, probably more well-rounded person than I would ever have been if I didn't go.
Yeah.
It's this wonderful feeling of my own return home from my own hero's journey. And let me tell you, what it says, what the hero's journey says is true. I absolutely feel like now I can mean so much more to the people I love the most back in Bloem than I could ever have meant to them if I didn't leave them behind in the first place.
Yeah. I mean, let's speak about The Lion King and how your relationship with this production came about. Tell us a little bit about how you became part of The Lion King.
The short version of a very cute story is I always played the piano from a very early age.
Yeah.
My mom realized I pressed notes that sounded good together as a boy. So she took me straight to the university and I got the best professor to teach me my whole life. So then I started doing smaller shows in South Africa in my 20s. Then at 29, I thought, I want to go further. But where would I go? Oh, I'll go to the center of the theater universe, New York City. But I had to sell everything I owned in order to go there. And yeah, New York is amazing. If you can make it there, you can make it anywhere, right?
Yeah.
So I realized, I have to study orchestra conducting. So to get further, to go and do bigger shows. And I got into the Juilliard School of Music, and I was halfway through my conducting course when my auntie Mariki from Pretoria called me in New York, and she was like, I read in the papers Lion King is coming to South Africa. You have to be a part of it. And I was like, ach nee man, Tannie Mariki, I'm only a Boersian from Bloem. But a week later, I found Lebo M, the South African composer of Lion King. I found his email address, and I emailed him, and I was like, here goes nothing. So, of course, 3 months later, this Nokia phone of mine, it was the old days, rings in New York, and it's Lebo M's orchestra contractor, the guy who has to, pick the musicians for the Lion King. And he's like, come to my hotel for a very expensive coffee. And I will never forget this. I rock up at the hotel, and we chat a bit, and he says, I'll be back soon. So he comes back from his room with a thick book of Mozart sonatas, right? And he asks the waiter, where is the grand piano?
Yeah.
And the waiter says, in the marble ballroom, sir. So we go there, he plonks that book down on the piano and he says to me, play. So I'm there playing my heart out and him scrutinizing me over my shoulder. Then I heard nothing. And 3 months later, that phone rang again and they were like, you gotta come to South Africa right now. We want you for the Lion King.
Yeah.
And that was 14 years ago.
Wow. All right. You know what, Preez, such an amazing story. Thank you so much for talking to us. Good luck with the show going forward. Preez Strauss speaking to us about his production Dreamland, which is currently on at the Drama Factory in Cape Town until the 10th of September.